the previous lecture, I have talked about steady state equilibrium. Steady state equilibrium in the Harrod model, and it is given by equality of your actual growth rate, warranted growth rate, and natural growth rate. Okay, this is steady state equilibrium with full employment. And in today's lecture, okay, before I proceed to look at this equilibrium aspect, okay, or your knife edge equilibrium, okay, let's talk about the process of economic growth in the Harrod model. Process of economic growth. Okay. So in the Harrod model, we have used the accelerator principle. So we will use the accelerator principle in order to know the process of economic growth. Okay. What is economic growth? It is sustained increase in output over time. So I am taking saving and investment here and output here. One of the assumptions is that saving is a proportion of income. Okay. So 9 will be from the origin, showing proportional relationship between saving and income. When we have proportional relationship, you will have 9 from the origin. Okay. That means that average profit to save equal to marginal profit to save. Okay. Now understand this graph. So suppose income increases to y1 from 0 to y1. Okay. I am taking what I am saying that your income increases from 0 to y1. When your income increases to y1, okay, demand for capital and goods also increases. Right? Demand for capital and goods also increases. That means investment increases. Why? Because investment is what? Addition to capital store. So investment will also increase. So this is investment. Okay. So Y1, I1 is your investment cycle. Okay. I repeat one more time. When your income increases, okay, demand for capital goods also increases. So your investment also increases. Okay, I am repeating it one more time. Okay. So saving is a proportion of income. Okay. Suppose your income is Y1. So, or you can say income increases from here to here. When your income increases, demand for capital goods also increases. This is what our accelerator principle is saying. When your demand for output increases, demand for capital goods also increases. Okay, by some proportion. Okay, that is our accelerator principle. So when your income increases to Y1, okay, demand for capital goods also increases, so your investment increases. Okay, so Y1, I1 is your investment cycle. Y1, I1 is your investment cycle. Or you can say sum of this 9 represent accelerator coefficient. And what is that coefficient? You know that delta K over delta Y is C. This C represents your accelerator coefficient. Clear? Okay. Okay. So the sum of the 9 Y1, I1, okay, is C. Okay. Now look at here. At income level Y1, how much is my saving? S1 Y1. Okay. Now this saving is invested. I am investing this saving. Okay. When saving is invested, what will happen? Income will be generated. The new income will be Y2. Yes or no? My new income is Y2. Okay. So income increases. So again, when income increases, demand for capital goods will also increase. When demand for capital goods also increases, your investment will also increase. Okay. Investment will increase from Y1, I1 to Y2, I2. Okay. Okay. Again, there will be saving. Okay. That saving will be invested. Income increases to Y3. Okay. When income increases to Y3, demand for capital goods increase, demand for capital goods increase, then what will happen? Investment will be done, your investment segment will be shifted backward. Okay. In this way, economic growth is taking place. Okay. So the process of rising income, saving and investment, okay, we have shown through the accelerator principle. Okay, so it is through the accelerator effect that growth is taking place. In everyone? Okay, okay. So this you have in the process of economic growth. Make a notes of this one, okay, properly. Now, so in the steady state, okay, we in the last lecture I have looked at steady state, and a steady state is a condition where your actual growth rate equal warranted and natural growth rate. Okay. In today's lecture, I am going to look at disequilibrium. That is also called knife edge equilibrium or razor sharp equilibrium. Okay. If G equal GW, okay, actual growth rate equal warranted growth rate, okay, is called knife edge equilibrium. Okay, this is a stable equilibrium, and this is stable equilibrium I can have with full employment or with unemployment equilibrium. Okay, this equilibrium is called knife edge equilibrium. Can you everyone? I can have this equilibrium, first case, this equilibrium with full employment, okay, because this is the natural growth rate of the population, okay, full employment of labor force, or I can have this equilibrium, okay, with less than full employment. That means I have unemployment equilibrium. And this equilibrium in the economy can happen by chance. If there is a deviation between G and GW, okay, there is no mechanism within the model, okay, that the economy will again come back to this equilibrium. That is why it is called knife edge equilibrium. Am I making myself clear? Okay, so I am going to look at this possibility. Okay, so I almost talk about that there are three possibilities. G can be greater than or equal to less than GW. Okay, one possibility is G equal to GW when we started the model with equilibrium or steady state equilibrium. Okay, G equal to GW aspect we have seen. Okay, so in this one, first thing I am going to look at G is greater than GW. Okay, what is G? G is actual growth in output, or for the time being understand this in this way: growth in aggregate demand. Growth in aggregate demand is more than growth in capacity output every period. Okay, here I am looking at continuous time period. Okay, so aggregate demand is growing in every period. Your capacity output is growing in every period. In every period, growth in aggregate demand is more than growth in capacity output. Then what will happen in that case? If you remember, what is G? It is a ratio of saving and actual capital output ratio. Okay, and GW, warranted growth rate, is a ratio of saving and required capital output ratio. Okay, so I can write this equation. Let me rearrange this equation. GC equal to S, and this will be GW into CR equal to S. For the given saving rate, okay, in order for equality to hold, if G is greater than GW, then actual capital stock must be less than your required capital stock. Okay, let me give you one example. Suppose your saving is 20, okay, actual growth rate is 10 and warranted growth rate is 5. Here, in order for equality to hold, how much actual capital stock is required? It must be 2. Yes or no? Actual capital stock must be 2. And here, in order for equality to hold, required capital stock must be 4. Okay, so actual capital stock will be less than your required capital stock. Okay, whenever your G is greater than GW, actual capital stock must be less than required capital stock. So this is a mechanical way. The way I have explained to you now, it is a mechanical way. Okay, now let me make you understand the interpretation. then you will get the economic logic behind it. Okay. What I am saying is that here every period growth in aggregate demand is more than growth in capacity output. That means capacity is falling every period. Actual capacity in the economy is less than required capacity. Yes or no? Okay. This implies by logically you look at actual capacity is falling required capacity. In every period required capacity is higher because growth in demand is more than actual capacity in the economy. Okay. That means required capacity is falling short of actual capacity in every period. Okay. Clear? Or you can use this equation to understand. Or you can write this up. Differently you can look at. Okay. One is the mechanical way. You can place the mechanical way here. So you have growth is what? Ratio of saving and actual capital output ratio. And this is what? Ratio of saving and required capital output ratio. Okay. You know that here 3 is greater than 2. Okay. This is the reciprocal part. 1 by 3 will be less than 1 by 2. Everyone agree? This is 1 over C, this is 1 over CR. Okay. This is the reciprocal. This S is constant. Okay. You are looking at the reciprocal. If this is greater than this, then the reciprocal will have opposite sign. 1 over C part. Okay. So when your growth in aggregate demand, okay, is more than growth in capacity output, then we see that in the economy, actual capital stock will fall short of your required capital stock. Okay. Here, in every period, economy will experience inflation. Why economy will experience inflation? Because growth in aggregate demand is more than growth in capacity output. Okay. So in every period, when the economy is growing, economy will experience inflation. Since we are talking about long term, since we are talking about economic growth, we are talking about long term. Okay. So there will be secular inflationary trend throughout the period. Secular means long term, inflationary trend. Okay. So economy will be having inflationary pressure in every period. In everyone? Okay. Economy will be having inflationary situation in every period. Because economy is experiencing growth in demand more than growth in capacity output. Okay. Now, second part. Growth in aggregate demand or actual growth rate in the economy is less than warranted growth rate. Okay. Actual growth rate is less than warranted growth rate. So what will happen? When actual growth rate in the economy or growth in aggregate demand, you can write growth in aggregate demand is less than growth in capacity output. That means actual capital stock or actual capacity in the economy is more than required capacity. Okay. Because growth in the demand is less than what producer can produce. Growth in capacity, every period capacity is growing at a faster rate than growth in aggregate demand. Okay. That means that the addition to the capital stock in every period by the firm is higher rate than what is required, because requirement is less because growth in demand is less. So you can look at through equation GC equal to S and warranted growth into required capital output ratio equal to S. This term is constant. Take any number. If this is higher value, you can change the sign. If this is higher value than this, take this to be 10, this to be 5. Okay, this is 20. So required capital stock is 2. Actual capital stock required is 4. Okay, actual capital stock in the economy is 4, but the requirement is only for 2. Okay, why? Because actual growth rate in the economy, okay, or growth rate in demand is less than growth rate in capacity output. Okay, then there is a overproduction in the economy. When you have more capital in stock than what is required, economy will have overproduction. When you have overproduction, in order to send the output, what you have to do? You have to reduce price in every period. So when you are reducing price in every period, okay, there will be second deflationary trend in the economy. That means in every period, producer has to reduce price. Can everyone? Okay. So we see that when G is greater than less than GW, okay, what is this? G, it is ratio of saving and actual capital output ratio. This is a ratio of actual saving and required capital output ratio. So this is constant. Saving is a policy variable given. Okay. So there is no mechanism within the model. Okay. That if both growth rate deviates, okay, there is no mechanism that both can be equated. If G is greater than GW, then in every time period we will find that G is greater than GW and economy will be having inflationary trend in every period. If G is less than GW, then in every period we will find that economy is having deflationary trend. Okay, that is why this equilibrium is called Knight-Ridge equilibrium. Okay, if there is a deviation, that means economy will not again come back to this equilibrium because there is no mechanism. Capital output ratio is constant, saving is given. Okay, there is no variable in the model. Okay, that will equate these two. And what is the reason that we have Knight-Ridge equilibrium? Why we get Knight-Ridge equilibrium in the model? Because this capital output ratio is constant. Saving is a policy variable, right? Because capital output ratio is constant, okay, we have fixed proportion production function. Fixed proportion production function. Okay. Now, there is a secondary element, okay, in this growth, that is your natural growth rate. Let's talk about that thing also. So primary aspect is your actual growth rate and your warranted growth rate. Secondary aspect of this Knight-Ridge equilibrium is your natural growth rate, GN. And this natural growth rate is the maximum growth rate that is possible in the economy. Okay? And it is given by the rate of growth of population. This I have derived for you people. Okay? Take the first case. When GN is greater than GW, you have three possibilities. Okay? First take the case GN greater than GW. Then what will happen? What is GN? Rate of growth of population. Yes or no? And GW is rate of growth of capacity. Suppose capacity has grown, okay, and it has increased to 20. Okay, I am giving you a static example. Suppose capacity grown to 20. Last date capacity is something. Today capacity has grown to 20. Okay, rate of growth of population today is 44. Okay, and if you remember the example that I have given, we are using 1 unit of capital and 2 unit of labor to produce 10 unit of output, and this proportion is fixed 1/2. Can everyone? So I am using 1 unit of capital with 2 unit of labor. So when I am using 20 unit of capital, how many labor I required? 40 unit of labor I required. Okay, that means 4% is unemployed. 4% is unemployed. Okay, that means there will be unemployment in every period. When the economy is growing, when you have this scale, what will happen? In the economy, you will be having unemployment. Because rate of growth of population is more than rate of growth of capacity. Capital labor ratio is fixed because we have fixed proportion technology. Okay, in every period there will be some people that will be unemployed. This part is clear. Okay, so some people is unemployed. That means in the economy, actual capital in stock is less than your required capital in stock. How much is the required capital in stock? 22. Right? If I have 22 capital in stock, that means on this 44 labor will be employed. But actual capital in stock is 20. So actual capital in stock form of required capital in stock. This part is clear? Okay. This means that, okay, this we have seen that when actual capital in stock is less than required capital in stock, okay, growth in the economy, growth in aggregate demand is more than growth in warranted growth rate, you can say, or growth in output, growth in capacity, growth in capacity output. Okay, growth in demand will be more than growth in capacity output. Clear, everyone? When I have natural growth rate more than warranted growth rate, this implies that actual growth rate will be more than your warranted growth rate. Okay, let me repeat one more time. So this is your rate of growth of population. When population is growing faster than growth in capacity, there will be some people that are not getting job in every period. So there will be unemployment in every period. Okay, what is the reason for that? There is a shortage of capital. Okay, so actual capital stock falls short of your required capital stock. Okay, so when your actual capital stock falls short of your required capital stock, other way that I have discussed in the first case, okay, that is the case we tend to when your actual growth in demand is more than your capacity growth rate. Clear, everyone? So when economy have this situation, this is the maximum possible growth rate that is possible. Gn is the maximum possible growth rate that is possible, and Gw is the growth in capacity. So what can we say here? Let me write this part. So when your Gn is greater than Gw, this means actual growth rate will be more than warranted growth rate. Why? Because actual capital in stock falls short of your required capital in stock. Okay? So what can we say that? First thing we will say that, here let me write point here. Okay? First thing we will say that, okay, rate of growth of population is more than rate of growth of capacity. Okay? So in every period there will be unemployment in the economy. In every period there will be unemployment in the economy. Okay, economy is growing, but in every period you will be having unemployment. Okay. Second thing, what we can say? Look here, there is a shortage of capital in stock. That is why we have unemployment in the economy. Okay. So you have shortage of capital in stock in every period, because actual capital in stock is less than your required capital in stock. Here, when you have this case, growth in aggregate demand will be more than growth in your capacity output. Why growth in aggregate demand is more? Look at population is higher, right? Then what is capacity in the economy? So that population need to be fed, right? That is why growth in aggregate demand is more than your growth in capacity output. So economy will experience secular inflationary trend. This part is clear to everyone? Okay. Okay. Next. Then second case, GW is greater than GN. What is GN? What is GN? Maximum growth rate that is possible in the economy. Okay. Here what I am saying that GW is greater than GN. Is it possible? That is what we are going to look at. Because what is GN? GN is the maximum growth rate that is possible in the economy. Okay. So let's look at this thing. What is this? This is rate of growth of capacity, and this is rate of growth of population. So rate of growth of capacity is more than rate of growth of population. What does it mean? I am adding more to capital in stock. So in the economy, actual capital in stock is more than required capital in stock. Actual capital in stock is more than required capital in stock. I have suppose 44 neighbor. Okay. Actual capital in stock is 24. So actual capital in stock is 24. How much I required for all these people to be getting employed? 22. Okay. So I have 2 capital in stock extra. The actual capital in stock is more than required capital in stock. That means that in the economy, actual growth or growth in aggregate demand will be less than growth in your capacity output. Growth in aggregate demand will be less than growth in capacity output. Okay. So what we can conclude when we have this thing? First thing, in the economy, what we will have? There will be what? Excess capital in stock. Everyone agree? Economy will have excess capital in stock. Okay. Now look at this one. Growth of capacity is more than growth of population. Okay. So I have excess stock of capital in every period. Okay. Clear? If you remember, okay, I have talked about that. You require fixed proportion of capital and labor to produce output. Okay. Now, growth of population, okay, is less than growth in capacity output. Then, if I am determining how much output to produce, okay. So, on what factor it will depend? It will depend on population growth or capacity growth. Remember, I have done y equal to minimum of AK, Bn. Here I am saying that growth in capacity is more than growth in labor force. So the determination of output, okay, will be based on growth in labor force. Yes or no? My determination of output will be based on growth in labor force. So growth in labor force is putting ceiling, okay, putting ceiling on how much output will produce. That is why it is called maximum growth rate that is possible in the economy. So capacity is growing. Capacity is growing faster than population growth. Okay, but I am not able to use that capacity. Okay, so since I am not able to use that capacity, so this is putting ceiling in the economy. So what will happen? GW, okay, growth rate cannot exceed. The maximum growth rate that I am able to get in the economy is GA. Okay, so economy will be having secular stagnation. Okay, economy will be having secular stagnation. Okay, let me repeat one more time. Your rate of growth of capacity is more than rate of growth of population. Okay, that means in every period, what you will find? Actual capital in stock is more than required capital in stock. Actual capital in stock, okay, is 24. Okay, but you required how much? Given the ratio that you required 1 unit of capital and 2 unit of labor. Okay, so you required 22 unit of capital capacity with 44 unit of population. Okay, so you have 2 unit of more capital in this period. Next period it will be more and more and more. So actual capital in stock is more than required capital in stock. So there is an excess capital in stock. Now, this GN, I have talked to you people that this is the maximum growth rate that is possible in the economy. Okay. Now, if in the economy output is produced, okay, given that this economy is characterized by fixed coefficient production function, the determination of output will depend on your labor force. Okay, capacity is growing faster than labor force. This is putting ceiling. This is the maximum growth rate that is possible. Okay, so what happened? Economy will experience secular stagnation. Okay, stagnation means there will be slowdown in the growth rate. Okay, now look at this one. When I have this case, why we didn't have secular stagnation? That is what I am saying. C greater than CR. That means actual growth rate less than warranted growth rate. Can you everyone? Warranted growth rate, okay, should be high because we are adding more to capital in stock. But in the economy, actual growth rate is less, okay, because there is a ceiling factor from the population side. And when we have this case, actual growth rate is less than warranted growth rate. That means growth in aggregate demand is less than growth in capacity output. In every period, what economy will experience? Deflation, right? There will be deflationary trend in the economy. So when in the economy they will be experiencing deflationary trend, or you can say recession, okay, that means that there is a secular stagnation. Okay, actual growth rate. Okay, what will be the actual growth rate? It will be equal to GA, because that is the maximum possible growth rate that is possible. Okay, but given that capital stock is growing faster, okay, this is the variable growth rate. Variable growth rate. Okay, but I cannot use that additional capital stock. Okay, so what will happen? Producer has to reduce the price of the goods that they are producing. So there will be secular deflationary trend in the economy, and economy will be having secular stagnation in the long run. Okay, so that is why the equilibrium that we have is called negative equilibrium. Okay, let me finish it in this one. Okay. G greater than GW. Let me draw one more here. Then I have to look at G less than GW. Then GM greater than GW. GW greater than GM. Okay, I am summarizing the outcome. What is this? Growth in aggregate demand is more than growth in capacity output. Right? Growth in aggregate demand is more than growth in capacity output. Yes or no? Okay. So this implies what? Actual capital in stock in the economy is less than your required capital in stock. Okay. Because in every period, growth in aggregate demand is more than your growth in capacity. Actual capital in stock in the economy is less than what is required. Okay. This will create inflationary trend in the long run, or you can say secular inflationary situation. Secular inflationary situation in every period. Now here, what we will have is growth in aggregate demand. You have to write here, okay? Growth in aggregate demand is less than capacity output. Okay? The capacity output is growing faster than your growth in demand. That means actual capital in stock is more than required capital in stock. Right? Growth in capacity is more than aggregate demand in the economy. Growth in aggregate demand in the economy. That means actual capacity is more in the economy. When actual capacity is more in the economy, what will happen in the long run? Okay, there will be deflation in the price. So we will be seeing deflationary trend, reducing the price level every period in the economy. Okay, and I have told you that when this differ, okay, there is no mechanism in the model, okay, that will correct it because capital output ratio is fixed. Third case, when rate of growth of population is more than rate of growth of capacity, what will happen? Actual capital in stock will be more or less than your required capital in stock. What will happen? Yeah, that is the case. I am asking about in terms of capital in stock. Actual capacity, actual capital in stock is less than required capital in stock. Okay, clear? Because growth in population is more than your growth in capacity. Okay, that means that actual capital in stock is less than required capital in stock. It means that your growth in demand is more than growth in capacity. Of course, growth in demand will be more because population is higher. Okay, that you can think of. Okay, but keep in this way. Okay, keep in this way. So here we can conclude that. Okay, first thing, in every period there will be unemployment. Okay, so unemployment in the economy is increasing. Okay, second thing, there is a shortage of capital because actual capital stock is less than required capital in stock. So shortage of capital. Okay, third thing, what will happen? Inflationary trend. Very good. Okay, because growth in demand is more than your growth in capacity. See, very easy to remember. Okay, now look at your growth in capacity is more than your growth in never falls. Remember the example that I given. When you have growth in capacity more than your growth in never falls, then your actual capital in stock will be more than your required capital in stock. Right? Okay. Look at this one. If you remember in mechanical way, you will forget. Remember the example that I give, then it will be easier. Okay. That means actual growth rate will be less than your warranted growth rate. Okay. Why? Because the natural growth rate puts ceiling to the growth rate. My growth rate cannot exceed the natural level. Okay. My growth rate will not exceed this natural growth rate. Why? Because capital level ratio is fixed. Why capital level ratio is fixed? Because capital output ratio is fixed. We have assumed the accelerator principle. Okay. In that we have seen that addition to capital in stock when demand for output increases is constant. That means capital output ratio is fixed. So our production function is fixed proportion. So what will happen? In the economy you have excess capital in stock. Okay. So even if you have excess capital in stock, look at here. Okay. My neighbor is fixed. Even I have excess capital in stock, I cannot produce more. I can produce only this much of output, right? Because growth is limited by the amount of neighbor. So neighbor is how much? If I remember, it is 44, right? Growth is limited by the amount of neighbor. If you have more of capital, okay, you cannot produce more output. Okay. So you are having excess capital in stock. Also growth is limited. Okay. Why growth is limited? Because growth is determined by the GA factor. Okay. So economy will be having secular stagnation, or you can say long-term depression. Okay. And when you have this case, that means economy will be having deflationary situation, deflationary trend, reduction in price never in every period. Okay. That means secular stagnation. Okay. So let me continue. So Harrod has used, okay, 3 dynamic growth rate: actual, warranted, and natural growth rate in order to show steady state equilibrium in the long run. Okay, this I have just shown you is my knife edge equilibrium, okay, or razor sharp equilibrium. Okay, so G equal to GW, growth in aggregate demand and growth in capacity output. Okay, by chance will be unequal. Okay, and with this I can have full income in equilibrium when these two equal to your natural growth rate. Okay, and when these two is less than your natural growth rate or maximum growth rate that is possible in the economy, I will be having unequilibrium equilibrium. Okay, then I have shown you, okay, cases. Okay, the G can be greater than GW and G can be less than GW. When I have this case, then there is no mechanism within the model that I can equate G with GW. I cannot equate these two. Why? Because capital output ratio is fixed. Okay. Then I have looked at secondary factor Gn. Okay. I look at the knife edge equilibrium. When I have introduced Gn, I have looked at the possibility that Gn is greater than Gw. Okay. When I have Gn greater than Gw, that means growth in population more than growth in capacity output. Then what will happen in this case? Actual growth rate will be more or less than your warranted growth rate. What will happen? In this case, G will be greater than Gw. And when I have Gw greater than Gn, okay, my growth rate is Gn is the maximum possible growth rate that is possible. Economy cannot grow according to the capacity, so my actual growth rate will be less than warranted growth rate. Understand in the way of economic interpretation that you will not make mistake in the examination. Here, this means that actual capital in stock is less than your required capital in stock. Here, it means that actual capital in stock is more than your required capital in stock. Okay, and on the analysis that we have done, we have seen. So this is what we have done. Okay. Now I am going to look at policy implication. Okay, or role of saving. So here, first thing, when Gn is greater than Gw, okay, what will happen to the economy? Growth in population is more than growth in capacity output. What will happen? Unemployment will be there, and second thing, there will be secular inflationary trend. Yeah, secular inflationary trend. There will be inflation in the economy. Why? Because actual growth rate will be more than warranted growth rate. Okay, actual growth rate will be more than warranted growth rate. Clear? So there will be inflationary trend. Okay, so economy is going through inflationary trend. Okay, so what is the shortage we have? Actual capital in stock is less than required capital in stock, right? So if I can increase this actual capital in stock over time, okay, it will be good for economy. Okay, look at your actual growth rate is saving over your capital output ratio. If I am able to increase saving, I can increase my growth rate. Okay, so when I am able to increase my actual capital output ratio, how can I increase? By increasing saving. Okay, so the policy implication is that when you have inflationary situation in the economy, okay, then saving is a virtue. Okay, saving is a virtue, good thing for the economy. Okay, second thing, when Gn is less than Gw, let me write in the way that I have written, then it will be when your warranted growth rate is more than your natural growth rate. Okay, warranted growth rate is more than your natural growth rate. What will happen? Yeah, actual capital in stock is more than required capital in stock. Okay, look at this thing. If I am saving more, adding more to capital in stock, will it be good for economy? No, it will not be good for economy. Okay, so during the deflationary situation, this is a deflationary situation, right? During deflationary situation, saving is bad for economy. Saving is vice. Okay, saving is bad for economy. Okay, now after this, they are concluding part. Now, why we are getting instability in the Harrod model? Look at this growth. Growth is S over C, right? Saving is given. Okay, this we cannot do anything. In the model, they assume capital output ratio is constant. Okay, since capital output ratio is constant, when G is greater than GW or less than GW, no adjustment will take place. Okay, so this fix when we are fixing capital output ratio or when we are keeping capital output ratio to be constant. Okay, it is providing instability in the model. Okay, so let's look at the implication of fixed capital output ratio in order to understand instability. Fixed capital output ratio. First implication. When I am taking fixed capital output ratio, okay, then what does it mean? It means capital labor ratio is fixed. That means we are using fixed proportion production function. That means labor and capital cannot be substituted. Cannot be substituted. Look at this one. We are using in fixed proportion capital and labor. Okay, 2 units of labor with 1 unit of capital. If I want to use more capital with 2 units of labor, I cannot produce more output. That means I cannot substitute capital for labor and labor for capital. Right? Yes, no. Okay. Second thing, since capital output ratio is fixed, okay, so when G deviate from GW, okay, when G deviate from GW, there is no mechanism in the model, okay, that can equate these two. So it is providing instability in the model. instability in the model. Okay. Third thing, third implication. Growth is what? It is ratio of saving and capital output ratio. Yes or no? Capital output ratio is fixed. When I increase saving, growth can be increased permanently in the Harrod model. By increasing saving, growth can be increased permanently in the Harrod model. Why? Because capital output ratio is fixed. Okay. So here I am concluding this Harrod model. So in the Harrod model, okay, there is instability because capital output ratio is fixed, and because capital output ratio is fixed, growth can be increased permanently by increasing saving. Okay. So this is what we conclude. And here the equilibrium that we are getting, okay, is Nye-Bayes equilibrium. Because once you deviate from the equilibrium, there is no mechanism within the model that will take you back to the equilibrium.